By youth coalition building for political change, I mean the process whereby young people come together, young associations come together, synergize across local, national, regional boundaries, and set an agenda about how they intend to overcome some of the barriers hindering the participation of younger people in the political process in the African region. I think it is important for younger people to come together. That is the only way that some of these challenges we've identified already in hindering younger people's participation in political processes can be overcome. I think it's unbelievable that with about 70% of the African population constituted of young people, we do not yet have the traction that we need to have in terms of younger people's participation in the political process. One very important way of doing this is for younger people to be united. When young people come together and set a very clear roadmap about where they want to be in terms of political change in the continent, in terms of governance, in terms of the economic reality of the African continent, in terms of the social reality, in terms of overcoming some of the challenges which have been introduced by globalization, in terms of harnessing some of the potentials that have been introduced by globalization. When young people come together, then there's an enormous amount of traction that can be derived. And so when I talk about the imperative of coalition building, I am speaking to the capacity of younger people to change the reality in the continent of Africa through collective mobilization, through an identification of a common platform, through concerted action across the continent. And so basically I think that's the concept here. But how do we intend to do this? Obviously we are aware that there are particularities, national particularities, regional particularities that need to be overcome. But Africa as a continent is very much the same in terms of its aspirations. Every single African wants a better government that is against corruption, that provides for its people, that is committed to justice and human rights, that is committed to nation building, that is committed to gender equality, that's committed to peace and security. These aspirations are broadly shared. These aspirations are African in every sense of it. And so if the youth coalition can rally around these commonalities, then it is, I think, very possible to, in many respects, trickle down these goals within, the respective countries and make sure that they're adapted to the realities of those countries. And so I think that really is a rallying platform. And in the Central African region, I think that such a coalition would allow younger people in Cameroon and Gabon and the Central African Republic and in Equatorial Guinea and Democratic Republic of Congo to come together and sit and develop a roadmap on how to hold the governments in this country more accountable and how to ensure that younger people have a voice and a presence in the political process. How to ensure that younger people are not just seen as voters, but are seen as central to elections organization establishments, and that they are seen to be running for office. I'd like to take this opportunity to laud the initiative that has been taken in the West African region. I'm talking about Nigeria specifically, where the Not Too Young to Run campaign has already gained quite some traction. We want to see a similar traction in the Central African region. And as I've said severally, power is never a given, it is a taken. Younger people would have to come together and ask the current establishment to give their due. And this would require effective coalition building and mobilization. Let me just say this rather quickly. I cannot disagree more, and I do so with every vehemence. I cannot disagree more with people who have a pessimistic view of Africa. I am an optimist, and I am an optimist because I believe Africa is not a problem to solve. Africa is a mystery to understand. If you look around the continent, if you see the respects to which younger people are standing up and making their voices heard, if you look at the possibilities, the limitless possibilities available to younger people with social media and how they are using these platforms for political mobilization, if you look at the open-mindedness of the African youth and the ways in which younger people in Africa are beginning to interrogate the status quo, if you look at the ways in which younger people in Senegal were instrumental in protecting democracy and in ensuring that an incumbent, Abdoulaye Wade, did not stick to power. If you look at the extent to which younger people played a significant role in liberating democracy in the Gambia, if you look at the extent to which younger people in Cameroon are contributing towards a revitalization of the democratic process and towards justice and human rights in the country, when you take these statistics independently, what you see are not just numbers. What you see is a resurgence of momentum where young men and women are saying enough. It's time to shake the morass, and it's time to ask tough questions. It's time to have our spot around the table. And so when I look at these developments across the African continent, when I look at the institutional changes that are going on in the African Union, I'm talking about renewed commitment, to put younger people at the forefront. When you look at the African governance mechanism and the ways in which it is looking forward to youthful enthusiasm to move forward. When you look at the respects to which there's renewed commitment to get younger people together in the realization of the aspirations set forth in the African Youth Charter. When you look at countries like the Central African Republic, and you see the ways in which younger people are playing an instrumental role in pushing forward democracy and in opening the doors of opportunity for everyone, I can only be optimistic that despite the challenges that Africa still faces, the younger people in the continent have the potential to change things. So the question really is, to the incumbents, the political incumbents in Africa, want to be remembered as people who, with grace, allowed younger people to have a voice, to take over, and to change the fate of the continent, or people who were forced out to the doldrums of history because they stuck to power and tried to resist the upward movement of younger people. So that's the question, because whether we like it or not, the future is for the youth.